Alex Dollywell with Rebel News, reporting to you live from the Grey Eagle Casino in Southwest Calgary, where my colleagues and I are covering what appears to be a massive UCP rally in the final days of the election period for 2023. Now, as you can see behind me, there is a substantive crowd, 500 to 1,000 people coming in support of the United Conservative message of low taxes, protecting our natural resources, and combating inflation. So let's see what some of the attendees have to say and what their reasons are for supporting Danielle Smith and the UCP. If you want to see more of our exclusive election coverage, please check us out at albertadecides.com. So what brings you out to the event tonight, sir? What are some of the reasons you're attending?
Well, I'm here to support Danielle. I mean, she's not perfect, but she's a hell of a lot better than Rachel. And Rachel scares me. You know, my family was in the camps during the war, and what she did during the pandemic, it was chilling, saying she'd go door to door with army and vaccinations. So that's why I'm here. She's the only candidate that declared for freedom. And, you know, I'm not an extreme radical, but I do support Take Back Alberta. And we've been portrayed as extremists in the media, not with you guys, but with all the mainstream media. And I'm here to tell you, you know, I support TBA. And I used to be a lefty. I've been a liberal. I was a liberal for over 50 years.
The main reason is because taxes. So high taxes. And the second reason is because I'm a dentist from another country, right? So I've been here for 10 years. And I find so difficult to put my skills into practice. I came with a lot of experience and knowledge, and I want to provide my service to the community. And right now I'm working with a dental implant company, and yes, I'm doing well. But however, I can see that even when I want to work, right? And it's so difficult. I don't want anything for free. I want to work, and I'm willing to do my experience, but it's sometimes so difficult, even to buy a house, to get into the system. It's so difficult. So I saw that the Conservative Party has the opportunity to work your skills, right? So that's what I want to do.
So I'm coming out here also to just explore and write an article and get some perspectives on people here at this rally. I'm coming out here because I guess this is my first time ever going to any political rally. I think it's a good experience to have at least once in your life, just to see what it's like for leaders to be essentially like out in the wild, where you can essentially repeat your platform without having it be monitored like a debate. But I'm really interested to see how this election is going to go. And I really think that the policies that she has talked about are interesting so far, and I'll look into them further. When she mentioned the stat about wiping out $13 billion in debt, after Notley's going into, I believe, $80 billion in debt, having to cover up some of the mistakes that the last election made. I know it'll be difficult because I still believe we're feeling the after effects of COVID, and it's not always easy to wipe back the debt that we have, but I've been impressed with how straightforward the message has been and how simple it is to wrap the mind around.
My doctor got me quite nervous about the NDP coming into power. She said it would just be so bad for Alberta and that there's no way anybody will ever have to pay out of pocket for health care. I've also learned that CPP is safe. And I'm really concerned. My husband lost his job or his business in 2015. He had 14 employees. And then we ended up closing the business in 2016. And it had been quite profitable for 10 years. And I'm just concerned about the farmers getting the fertilizer ban that would affect our food supply, our oil and gas workers, keeping them up and running, even though they're very green and very environmentally friendly. Yeah. So I'm here. I've met Josephine, and she is wonderful. She's highly educated, and I really want to have people know to look at their candidates and look at what they have to offer.
Well, my background is energy, and it's been a part of my life for 40 years. I support Indigenous involvement in energy, as does the Premier. So essentially what I support is for her to get back in power, give the mandate to the energy minister. I meet the energy minister or work with him, or maybe I read it in the paper, and those are my marching orders to go out and implement it and bring it to our people, our Indigenous people, to get them involved in economic reconciliation. So what that demonstrates, if I do that, is intergenerational wealth for the next 7 generations. That's kind of what we're all about. I'm with a group called Mazzini Energy, and our mandate is to lead Indigenous SMR development, which is small modular reactors. So it's truly intergenerational wealth for Indigenous, and that's what we support. And that's why we support the UCP.
I'm a born and raised Albertan, and I've lived through, the years, the early Trudeau years. I was a young child, and then so I've lived through the 80s, 90s, aughts, all the way through, and I know, having lived here and seen how Alberta's developed, the only real path forward for Alberta is the UCP. I think that with a Liberal federal government that are imposing their will on this province, if we have an NDP government that's complicit with the Liberals, it will drive us further down, and we have to keep focused on what has made this province prosperous, right? And we can't burn that down. We have to do things responsibly, and we have to develop our resources responsibly. We have benefited by being a lower tax environment, a lower tax province. It's the best option forward, right? Even if you're a young person, it's the best option forward. If your plan is to grow up and raise a family in this province, it's the best way forward for this province is to stay with a centrist / conservative party. That's really what it is. I think that the NDP are far off the course of really what is best for this province and for people who want to live here, right? And live here. I mean, if you're passing through, then it doesn't really matter. But if you're planning on staying here, it's by far the best party to vote for. And there are trade-offs, and I can certainly we all can appreciate that, the strengths and weaknesses. But on balance, it's no question.
Yeah, well, I remember running a business here, and I remember I had one bad year in business since 2003. And that was the year that she happened to be in. I just happened to notice that the Calgary Flames lost the night that Notley won when she was there for, her as a premier. And I remember how bad it was economically.
And what was your reaction when Notley had won that night? Because I know for many Albertans, they were shocked that the PCs and the Wild Rose had split the vote so much that it secured an NDP victory. So what was your reaction that night?
Well, the Flames lost too. It's a lousy night. Lousy night all around, I reckon. Yeah.
And what would your salesman pitch be to undecided voters who may be leaning more towards the NDP, but perhaps if they hear something else, they may lean to the UCP?
Communism doesn't work, and socialism is just watered down communism, or communism that hasn't fully bloomed. I would quote Henry Kissinger. He said, "Whenever I left a communist country, I felt something akin to exhilaration whenever I left. The monochrome drabness, the stifling conformity."
And some of the concerns, or some of the things that a lot of people found concerning, was that if you got fired, if you're unvaccinated, you would not even have access to employment insurance, something that we all pay into with each check. How concerning is that should another public health emergency happen, whether that's 10, 20 years from now, knowing that's the precedent that's been set?
No, it's very scary. And, it's enough to make you want to leave the country. But my wife and I, we decided we're going to stay and fight as long as we can, because that's not going to happen on my watch. If Rachel Notley and the NDP get in, they're going to ruin Alberta. They want to shut the oil and gas industry into the ground, and our economy is going to go down, and our electricity costs, our energy costs are going to go sky high. Inflation's going to go sky high. So, if you want to eat and have a family, vote for Danielle.
They did a lot of things to the farmers. They took away their discount for purple gas, the carbon tax, and so we'll automatically have a new carbon tax, whereas Danielle Smith is giving us the break as long as she can and is fighting the carbon tax. So that is a big concern. And I've had farmers look at the commitments that the NDP have announced, and they have said most of those things are in effect already. They're just wanting to hire more people to oversee the farms, and that's just, government's wasteful spending. They don't need, everything that's already happening is happening. TELUS is putting it in place, and the NDP are saying that they're bringing in these policies that are already in place. Anything good, so.
Alberta's got to take the province back. NDP has no place in Alberta.
And in terms of taking back the province, one of the pivotal things Danielle Smith has pushed forward is the Sovereignty Act, which is her attempt to reclaim provincial jurisdictions such as property rights on firearms.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. The sovereignty is going to be, protect Alberta's income. It's values, its economy. If you're looking at Rachel Notley as the answer, it's Jagmeet Singh that's running the show.
And what would be your salesman pitch for undecided voters who are unsure who they're going to support on Monday?
Undecided. Well, they must be new to Alberta. And I think they should really consider, the UCP has a 44-year history in power, and there's a reason for that. The reason is to protect Alberta's sovereignty.
Many of us, we come with a lot of experience and knowledge, and we just want to work. We don't want anything for free. We just want to work and apport to the society. This is a beautiful country. This is a great country that has a lot of opportunities. So I don't understand why there's so many blocks, and what we cannot do, we know how to do. We're citizens, and we know how to do things. This is a party that embraces the human, right? So if you can work, you can go ahead, right? You don't have to wait for the government to give you something or to take your taxes and give you little, right? So you want to be capable to make companies, to put all your skills in place so you can actually give jobs.
Well, I believe they've done a good job. I've spent time with Danielle in Indigenous communities. She understands them despite what others see. I see a different person. I see a person that supports Indigenous involvement in pretty much every aspect. She gets it, and that's why we support her. And our expectation is that she'll continue to support us, through her mandates, through her ministers. We have this thing, energy companies, Indigenous, you have to walk the walk. And if she can demonstrate that through her policies and dealing with Indigenous, she has my vote, and she has the vote of Indigenous people.
And something that is important, especially given we're both in the journalism field, is freedom of the press. Now, unfortunately, what we've experienced is, while the UCP have taken our questions, the Alberta NDP have not reciprocated that. Now, how important is it that, regardless of people's political opinions, that we maintain a free and open dialogue moving forward, regardless of the results on Monday?
I feel it's very important because if you look at different situations throughout history, when media is restricted, it doesn't go well. Sometimes in some situations that it's not always the best. So I think it's important to have fair and open dialogue because that's the best way to talk with people from the other side. I know that if you ask people from this party and opposite parties, there would somewhat be like a mutual dislike of someone who has a different point of view. But the thing is, if you feel that way all the time, right? If you keep on holding on to that view, you're never going to get anywhere when you have to have a face-to-face discussion or when you have to try to agree on something. I think it's important to have civilized dialogue, even with the other side, and to find some points that you can agree on, because I believe that a lot of people, we do believe in some basic truths. I know that it feels that it feels that it's getting more jaded now, that essential truths are flip and flop. They're not a lot to hang on to, but I feel that having a conversation, listening, but also respecting the other person's point of view at the end, and sometimes just agreeing to disagree is sometimes the best way to go about these discussions, because not everyone is ready to enter into debate with you, and if you try to make it that way, you're just going to close them off completely. So it's important to have that discussion, be ready for anything, and also be ready to resolve it in a way that you might not like, but make it respectful.
If you want to see more of our exclusive election coverage, please check us out at albertadecides.com.